I'm JinJa Birkenbeuel.
And I'm Esther Ikoro, and we're the hosts of the Honest Field Guide podcast.
Entrepreneurship is no joke. The journey is full of anticipation, failure, hope, and disappointment. You'll make money and be totally broke at the same time.
The Honest Field Guide podcast tells you the truth.
We know being an entrepreneur is crazy hard, and you will sometimes cry at dinner. Listen in to be inspired, laugh, and learn how to really thrive on your business journey.
Wow. Hi, JinJa.
Hey, Esther.
Tell us who we're with today.
So I'm excited because this person that we're meeting with is someone that I've admired for a number of years. Met him in New York at a friend's birthday party. And I was lucky enough to be sitting next to him. And we started talking about music. And this, of course, is before I even knew that he was a lawyer in the music business. And at the time, you know, even still happening now, I have a band with my husband. We have 3 albums, and I was trying to figure out, you know, bring my music to New York and maybe I'll hit it big. And lo and behold, my good friend, you know, her birthday party, she sat me next to James E. McMillan, PC, which is the name of his company. And he's a tremendous powerhouse attorney working with all kinds of fabulous artists. His tagline is, "Who's your lawyer?" Which I think is an amazing tagline. And on his website, he goes by attorney, entrepreneur, producer, and executive. James, otherwise known as Jimmy, welcome to the Honest Field Guide podcast.
Well, I think I need to welcome y'all to New York because you guys have had like a whirlwind experience, I'm sure.
I know, right? It's blowing up.
Yeah.
It's just been blowing up. So, you know, thank you so much for coming on our show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell everyone that's listening about your company, and especially and particularly around the fact that you have been an entrepreneur, I feel like, your entire career.
Yeah, I've been a lawyer. I've been an entrepreneur for my entire career. Absolutely. I was one of those kids who went to college who, you know, I think I worked for some companies for like, you know, like an internship or something like that. I think, what did I work for Procter and Gamble. And then I was like, I always wanted to be a lawyer. Went to law school, flunked out, went back to law school, excelled. But in the interim, before I got back to law school, I got arrested and got convicted of a felony and had a whole bunch of stuff to overcome.
Wow.
But I was, you know, that's my entrepreneurial journey is definitely one of ups, downs, and every other way in between to try and figure it out.
Right. So you know, first of all, I did not know all that. And that's amazing, because when I look at your online profile, and even just based on when I originally met you, you know, you're just such a bright, positive spirit. The energy comes off
Thank
of you. And I don't know if you know this, but I feel it. I'm very sensitive to energy.
Thank you.
You know, when did you decide that you were going to open your own law firm? Because, you know, Black men in legal spaces, it's very different from Black women in legal spaces. It's very different from, you know, any woman in legal space, right? To decide, I'm not going to work internally in a company because there's safety, there's guarantees. There is a lot of billable hours you have to account for. I have a lot of lawyer friends. But what made you take the chance? I mean, it's terrifying to be a lawyer and decide you're going to open your own law firm,
it's
especially when you're Black.
Well, it's interesting that you make that observation, because I had a conversation with a young woman earlier today, and she was looking for a job in the entertainment space, and she's looking to be a marketing executive in the music space. And we were talking specifically about how you have to be good and to be culturally relevant in our to our culture in particular. You kind of got to have your ear to the street, and you kind of have to like know the playing field. So in my instance, I'm not saying I knew everything, but my gut instinct told me that I was young still. I had a set of unique relationships that I go into enough schools and enough cities and states that I knew a lot of my friends didn't have. And a lot of my, you know, unique relationships, the people, my friends from those relationships were doing really, really well. And at the time, it was like they were doing like, you know, videos and they were entertainers. And I was like, look, you know, I'm here in Texas. I was working at a law firm. I was doing well. But because I had gotten convicted of a felony, I knew that it was going to be tough for me to take the Texas bar. So I did my research, and there was only 2 states that allowed me to that were going to allow me to take the bar, and that was New York and California. So because they did the background check after you take the bar. So I had friends in New York. I took the New York bar. I passed the first time. I was really nervous about submitting my background paperwork, and one day I was at my aunt's house. I was trying to hedge my bets, but I was at my aunt's house in LA, and I had taken the California bar. I did not pass the first time. I was gearing up to take it again. And one morning, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but one morning, I think I was so stressed about it. I woke up at maybe 4:30 in the morning, and my head was buzzing, and it was and I just went to my computer and just typed out my statement and sent it in. And, what I'm not telling you is that what I've skipped over is the fact that I'd hired a lawyer to handle this for me.
Oh my gosh.
And I submitted the statement, and it was against my lawyer's advice, right? So I sent him a copy of my statement afterwards, and he was really upset. And he was like, "You're never going to get sworn in. Why'd you do this? Blah, blah, blah." And I got called in for my interview in New York. And when I got called in, the gentleman said to me that he had never read a statement like mine. It was very honest. I told him everything that I had done, and, told him my journey and how, whatever. And he said that he thought I would be an excellent addition to the New York bar. And his main thing was that, look, you need to tell your story to other people. Right. And I was like, wow, literally, it brought tears to my eyes, because this was my dream since I was 11 years old, to be a lawyer. Right. So finally I was able to become one. And then the firm that I was working at the time was a guy by the name of Ed Woods and Reggie Osei. They had a firm here in New York where they represented some of any and everybody in hip hop and R&B and in the music business, period, in general. I've been working there for a while, but it was time for me. I felt like I had learned enough that I could kind of do my thing. Mm-hmm. And I went back to New York immediately. I drove down from Albany, came back to the city, and I met the gentleman who was in the building of the firm that I was working at. He was the guy who sold office spaces. And I talked to him, and he sold me a space. And my first space was in the same building as them, maybe they were on 10. I think I was on 14.
Wow. And
I sent them an announcement. They didn't know I was in the building. And I sent them an announcement and told them that I just opened my office, and I just went from there. I was literally I had no money. I had a dream. My rent was $900 a month. My boy was letting me stay in his room, and he had an extra room.
You were scrappy. You were just scrapping.
But I felt confident I could do it.
Where did you get the confidence?
I don't know. I was just born with it. I think.
You were born with it? I'm listening to you. How did you know? What signs did you get that said, I'm an entrepreneur? Because some people don't come to entrepreneurship until much later in life. And sometimes they come because disappointment or failures, or because they're tired. But you sounded like you were 11 years old. You had a dream to be a lawyer, and why didn't you want to go work at?
I think it came from my dad. It came from my dad and my mom. They were. I grew up in a household where they were hustling all the time. They sold real estate. They sold. They were teachers. They consistently instilled in me that at 18 you're out. You're going to figure it out. It's either going to be school or the military. You got to figure it out. My dad was like, I did the military. You definitely don't want to do that, but you got to figure it out. You're not staying here. So that stuck. And then when I got to school, it was you got 4 years. If you don't do this in 4 years, then you're going to have to figure it out on your own. And that stuck too. And I was always kind of trying to figure it out.
Did you know you were going to be an entertainment lawyer? What kind of law are you practicing? You could have been any kind of lawyer.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. My main thing was I wanted to be a good lawyer. And I promoted that. I promote the fact that I'm an entertainment lawyer, but it's always been, super important to me to be an excellent lawyer and an excellent person. If I take on your case, if I take on your matter, then we're going to try and find a solution for you that works. And it's just that simple, no matter what the matter is. Now what I do think that gets people in trouble sometimes is they take on matters that are not in their core competency. And so they end up, taking on things that they can't handle ultimately. But I do believe it's important to be a really good lawyer, and then you can be an entertainment lawyer or whatever kind of lawyer you want to be. When I was first started out, I wanted to be, my models were Johnny Cochran and Willie Gary. I thought Johnny fought for justice, and I thought Willie fought for the money, right? And I wanted to be a blend of those two. And I still keep that in the back of my mind because that's essentially where I'm at, when I'm practicing law.
You've given us bits and pieces of your story. It sounds like your parents were really, really straightforward with you.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about the moments where you've kind of gotten derailed, or maybe things that have led up to you having to write that statement and go through that, and what snapped you back?
I think it's life, man. I mean, I'm a young black man dealing with the social norms that we deal with in our society, right? And, in our culture, a lot of times we have a lot of things thrown at us, and we have, there's choices you can make. And sometimes we make the right choices and sometimes we don't. I think that I'm not infallible. I've definitely made some mistakes in my life, but, by the grace of God, I've been able to overcome a lot of them and find a different path to achieve the same goal. I think that my parents, always instilled in me not to quit. And I think that that's the main thing. I think, I take that quote that Jay-Z says. He's like, the genius thing that we did was we never quit, right? We never stopped, right? I think that that's, most entrepreneurs or most successful people or would say the same thing, because life is a journey. You make mistakes along the way, and you're like, damn, like I got to adjust. I got to figure this out. You know what I mean?
What has been a moment where you really had to go back in that never quit bag? Like, what was your first major
challenge? When I flunked out of law school.
Yeah.
I never flunked it. I failed some classes. Not classes, but some tests, right? But failing out of law school the very first time, it was super embarrassing. I was the president of the Black Law Students Association. So, because I was I was always popular. I was funny. I had jokes and stuff. So it was like, I was cool with everybody, and I got elected to be the president of BALSA at the time. And then I flunked out. That when my grades came out, I wasn't asked to come back. That was really, really extremely hurtful. And for 2 years, I had to sit out, because there's an ABA rule that says basically that if you want to go to an accredited school, if you fail out, you have to sit out for 2 years.
Wow.
So I had to sit out for 2 years. In that 2-year time period, I was kind of lost, didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was trying to figure it out. And I resorted to selling weed. And that wasn't that I had my bumps and bruises with that. And then the other life-defining moment for me with that was I got into a shootout in a 1-bedroom apartment. It was with no furniture. That was wild. And I was like, I don't want to ever do this again.
Wow.
And so I went back and I applied back to law school, and the dean who I made an impression upon the first time I went he accepted me back in. And so I really took it super serious. The second time I went around, I mean, I barely had any friends. That was it. That was my thing. So it was like I had a burning fire in my belly to be the best and to be as good as I could be and the best that I could be.
I don't think you can be an entrepreneur without this. I mean, there's this common thread, of course, that, the burning thread, the perseverance, the listening, the making mistakes, taking cues, taking that information and translating it into applying it to other scenarios.
Vital pivots.
I mean, it's just really, this is what's required. And so I get driven insane sometimes. There's people that believe they're entrepreneurs, but they're not. I mean, there's just, or they want to be, and they don't necessarily realize the barriers and the sacrifices and the intensity that's required to keep this alive over the long haul. I mean, it's one thing to have something for 6 months. It's another thing to hit 6 years and then to hit 10, 15, and maybe even 60 years. I mean, that's a whole nother experience. But I really want to ask you, so and this is something that's been fascinating to me because, entertainment law is so different than other types of law practice. How did you get into the entertainment law space? Because you're dealing with intellectual property as well, right? So what is the place that made you say, this is it for me? I love this. This is what I want to do. Because entertainment in general is tough. Making it in the music business is a dream that all of us have, including myself, I might add.
It's a lot of fun. I think what happened with me is it was a number of different events. And I think you touched on it when you said following your life cues. My grandparents were entertainers starting out, right? And so I watched them as a young kid, entertaining to pay the bills, right? And to help to pay their bills. And then a lot, as they got older, my mom and my dad and my uncle and the rest of my family kind of took care of them, have been taking care of them. But we got the bug from them. My uncle played the drums for, a bunch of bands like the Spinners and a bunch of other groups. And my mom always had us in church choirs. So I was always like, in some kind of performance, right, growing up. And when I got to college, I realized that there was an actual, music business that was that I had a connection to through a friend of mine. And we started a record company in college. And from there, at the time that we were starting it, there were a lot of other people that were young and trying to, exercise. Like they were, how do I say it? They were actually taking advantage of the fact that hip hop was starting to become a movement and a real big thing, and people were starting to really make money in hip hop. And so it was just like a fortunate thing, for me, in the sense that a lot of my friends were from New York and DC and from places where they were connected to people that were in the entertainment business. And I found my connectivity from there and already had like an understanding of it to some degree, or an inkling to kind of be involved with it from my family. And then, so I just, went with that. But I think it goes back to what you said. It's like following the cues, following life's cues. Sometimes in life for me, it's, doors have been shut in my face. And when I, like I said, I interned at, I think it was Procter & Gamble, one of those big companies. I worked for the Department of Navy office of Space Corps, something like that. I forgot what it's called, but nonetheless, I did all this
the
stuff.
Office of the Space Corps.
Yeah. I was clearly I shouldn't have been there.
What job is that? The Office of the Space Corps.
Listen. At the end of the day, it's like I feel like I'm here because I followed the cues, and that's really it.
We're in a performance culture. The internet has really democratized information and intellectual property. Hip hop is hitting a peak that is engulfing different types of genres, and really like the power is undeniable at this point. So with the fact that people can disseminate their intellectual property, their art, their music, all of that so freely on the internet, what are some of the things that you've learned as you've evolved as a lawyer and still been working with artists about the hurdles that young entrepreneurs and creators and musicians are facing when it comes to protecting their intellectual property in light of the internet?
Protect your work. I think the best thing that I try to tell young artists is that it doesn't cost, the barrier to protect your work is not as big as you think it is. It's, you can go, there are resources out there that you can use to try to protect your work, either through trademarking your own work or copywriting your own work. Protect your intellectual property as much as you can, and respect other people's intellectual property. And meaning that in the event that, let's say I'm a rapper and you're a producer and you've made a beat and I found it online on the internet and I record over your beat, and then the song becomes huge or becomes, it starts to get a lot of attention, then it would behoove me to reach out to you and try to work out something fair with you early on, as opposed to waiting when, after the fact, when, or allowing the door to be open for someone else to come in and steal your beat. And, then it becomes, your opportunity is either diminished or it's gone, right?
One of the things I think that I find really interesting about your career is how much you love music, mm-hmm. and how much you seem to love your artists by what I've seen on Instagram.
Right.
I feel like you take personal interest in what they're doing. You show up for them. You're in the pictures. I think you put yourself out there in ways that most lawyers that I know, they're so, I don't want to say afraid, but maybe it is, or maybe it's even a legal issue. They don't put themselves out in the front. They're always in the background. They're very careful about, their online presence, and many don't even have one.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, in addition to the fact that I'm saying, how do you maintain such solid, loving relationships, but also professional ones? And then by extension, because you are in the entertainment space and you're a lawyer, where is your fear of not putting yourself out there?
I'm fearful at times.
You are scared.
100%.
You just don't show it.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, well, it depends. I don't post everything, but sometimes I'm definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
Do tell. Yeah. Do tell us.
Some things I think you just got to be. You've got to think it through, and there's a balance. Like in my instance, I started a company called Art at War, and it's a label.
Oh, right.
And so I've got 5 acts. Right, and I promote their exploits, and I manage an act as well with a partner of mine. But I do my best to try to promote the artists that I have an interest in, and that's it. And that's from my perspective as the CEO of my company.
And so, because of that, then you have to have an intimate relationship, is what you're saying, in order to get to know them, and that's sort of what comes across really clearly on your public profiles.
Yes.
Okay.
And as a lawyer, being a lawyer sometimes can be a thankless job in the entertainment space. And then being a manager can be a thankless job as well. People run to their lawyer generally when they have a problem, and they want their lawyers to figure it all out. And
they're probably in crisis. When you say problem, it's crisis, right?
Yeah. Not all the time, but a lot of times they're in crisis mode. A lot of times it's clearances and and things of that nature that you have to deal with as a lawyer, but and contracts, but. A lot of times too, you do deal with crisis. So-and-so got into a fight this weekend, and he's getting sued, or so-and-so, something happened. He's been arrested, and, he needs to get out of jail, or, he's been accused of, some kind of misconduct or something like that. And so you're dealing with that, and you consistently be thinking about how to figure it out. Now, in those instances, if you get a good outcome, you stand next to your client, you're looking good.
Right.
But in those instances when, sometimes it's, you don't want to be that guy who's just like promoting your guy and he's like sitting there like, just coming out of some crazy hardship. You know what I mean? You don't want to take advantage of that. So you really just want to help people. If you, in my opinion, as a lawyer, when I've got my lawyer hat on, if I'm trying to help someone and, if they want the attention, then I'll give it to them. But if not, then I just try and, let them, manage it from the background.
Do you have competitors?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, who are your competitors? And
it's a bunch of them.
Okay.
I mean, I'm so competitive with them, I don't want to speak their name.
Got you. Yeah, I mean, so just thinking about, I feel like you do stand alone in some ways.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, I think you do. And I'm trying to understand some of the strategies that you deploy to get the client, and to protect the clients you have, and to go up against other lawyers that are competitors. I mean, I feel like you're in the entertainment business. You're really good at what you do. You're also in the hip hop space. I'm sure you have people. You have other guys at your back constantly, or other women.
Yeah, I think my main thing is I think what I'm really good at is finding things early. And, and that just comes back.
So wait, does that mean you're a scout too? What do you mean by that?
I guess. I mean, people refer me stuff and I can sift through it. I can kind of filter through it and determine if something's going to be hot or not. I've been really good at that.
Okay, let me just back up for a minute. You have your law business. You said you just launched the label.
Yep.
And then I also read recently that you've done something with Atlantic Records.
Yeah, we partnered with Atlantic Records.
Is that the label you launched?
That's the label.
So talk a little bit about that too.
So I've got a label called Art at War. We've got 5 acts. There's our first signing was YBN Namir. He's got 2 platinum singles and a gold album. We've got another artist by the name of YBN Almighty J, who's found success with an artist by the name of YBN Corday, who has an album coming out July 26th. And then we've got an artist named Skate, and who's going on tour with Wiz Khalifa, and he's got a project coming this later on this summer. Then we've got our latest signing is a young lady named Juicy Fruit, from Memphis.
I love that name.
Yeah, she's dope. She's super dope. And then we managed a kid by the name of YK Osiris, who was at Def Jam. He's got one platinum single and one gold single.
Have any of your past artists taken you to the next level in terms of your ability to get larger, contracts, larger acts? I mean,
I think all of the artists. I think, the success that you have with any artist allows you. It opens up new doors and new opportunities. I think, and one of the things I'm very proud of is the work that I did with branding and finding and developing Machine Gun Kelly, right? Because in his instance, we were able to diversify his entertainment portfolio. So we started out with music and then went to film and TV and went to brand endorsement deals, started a music festival, and have really kind of made him into a household name from a young kid from Cleveland. He's from my hometown, went to my high school, got a lot of love for him. He's like, a little brother. But I think that, to your point, I think that we've had a lot of success with him and opened a lot of doors in that instance. And so there's a lot of, I'm proud of that those moments.
You did so much with him. Was that a collaborative process? I mean, this is what I was saying earlier. I can tell by your public profile the relationships that you cultivate with your clients and even with people that are not your clients. Did you work together with him with all these different components that you built that helped him elevate? And
Absolutely. It starts out, I think one of the most powerful relationships you can have is to have someone to pair someone or to pair people that have a dream and people that have know-how, right? And then they have faith in each other, right? To really build the process out. Because just like we started out saying, it's a journey. So there's ups, there's downs, there's good times, there's bad times, and you have to be able to suffer through it and together and have faith in the fact that you'll get there together. And in his instance, I think that we had faith in each other, that we would get there together, and that was what was in large part fueled our success.
That's amazing. And like JinJa said, it does look like you're very invested in the artists that you work with. With your work, people's dreams are on the line and things that they've left every other opportunity to do. How do you deal with when that doesn't work out for them? How do you stay mentally sound in those moments of feeling that with someone that you're that close with and have worked that hard to realize their dream? Because statistically speaking, it's not for everybody, right? Like
sometimes what happens is, like to your point, if the success doesn't come as quickly as they'd like it to come, then people get frustrated, right? And in their frustration, it's just human nature, depending on the personality. Sometimes people will come home and kick the dog or point fingers at the people around them, right? And so you have to deal with that. And then, but at the same time, I've got to make a living and I've got to pay my bills, and I've got employees and I've got people that rely on me. So, if in fact the artist is, artist A is, we've partnered up and we've agreed to climb the mountaintop and we don't quite get there. And if it becomes an issue of, well, it's your fault and you did this and you did that, and there, you try to just let them, you got to back off. And it's hurtful at times because, you all have dreams together, but then you also realize you get to learn people, right? Because, I managed an act one time and I realized that my dream was to go to the Super Bowl. If we were like a football team, my dream was to go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. Their goal was to get to the playoffs. And I was like, that wasn't hot. Like I was like this, because every time I felt like when we needed to get to the next level, it was like an excuse. Oh, I'm tired. Oh man, I couldn't, meet the appointment. I was late or whatever. And in order to succeed and to be competitive, you got to realize, like, look, you can't do these kinds of things. You can't, there's a certain formula you got to follow, and you got to have respect for the other people that are also in the game doing the same thing that you're trying to do. And if you don't respect that process, then you'll just make the playoffs and that'll be it. But you can't expect everybody to want to sit around and just make the playoffs every year. Some of us really want to win a Super Bowl.
What are some of the most sort of devastating things that have happened to you in your journey through entrepreneurship? And now I would suggest you're not even an entrepreneur anymore. You have a business. You have multiple businesses. So, what are some of the places where you've had really crazy things happen and what have you done to get out of it? And that could be either emotional or financial or...
It's unfortunate sometimes when people that you build with and you don't see eye to eye, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a falling out of the relationship. That is hurtful, right? But at the same time, you have to adjust and you've got to, move forward with the understanding that you've done the best that you can do and you are the best person that you could possibly be in this situation. And sometimes, when you're building something up, let's say Esther and I build a company up and you're her lawyer, right? Or you're like, you see what we're doing and you want to, play a part in it. And Esther and I have huge success. And we're like, well, JinJa, we're doing our thing. We don't really know how you fit in. And then next thing you know, you start throwing salt, right? And you've got a relationship with Esther that I don't have. And you start telling Esther, oh, you saw James didn't dot his I's and cross his T's. James did this. James, Jay walked across the street. James, and Esther starts being like, yeah, James, looking at me funny or whatever. And it's like, the hate that comes in. I think that's one of the most disappointing things, but you got to deal with it and it makes you tougher and it makes you adjust for the next time period. And
wow.
It's a life thing. It's not just an entrepreneurial thing. It's not just it happens in all walks of life.
We've talked about that.
We've been talking about this.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel like it's
you gotta stay sucker free.
Sucker free, stay sucker free.
That's our next shirt.
Sucker free.
It's a shirt, edit point.
Like I'm telling you, man, because the haters are out here, and they're like every moment that you're building, they're here just to tear you down, and it's they're miserable, and dealing with that is one of the hardest parts because sometimes they come in the form of friends, family, people that you feel like, yo, what? Not you. A2 Brutus? Like
yeah,
what? Like
the knife in the side in the middle of everybody.
That's one of the hard ones.
Poison
to
in
deal
the drink.
With. Yeah. So, but
some of what you're describing, I feel like is definitely applicable to every aspect of every business life I've been in. And when you were talking about this, all I could think of was, there's so many crabs in the barrel and we're all fighting for, there's so much to go around. Why are we fighting over this? Just move on to the next conquest. Mm-hmm. Find your own path, find your own journey, look for your own, cues. And sometimes sometimes we're working together, sometimes we're not. But, we just keep moving forward because we're never going to get anywhere unless we do,
Yep. And to your point, sometimes our own people can be our worst enemy.
Absolutely.
They will try to tear you down, and you just got to avoid those people.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't know they're there.
No, because they disguise themselves very well.
Do you find it hard to trust people when you're dealing with art and entertainment and collaboration?
I think honestly, I think everybody's different, but my thing is that you lead with what you want, with what you want to get. So I lead with respect. My ability to discern between bullshit and real shit is pretty high. Again, when you lead with trust, you deal with everything, right? So I've dealt with all the hustlers, all the pimps.
You lead with trust?
Yes, I try to, because at the end of the day, it's like, if I lead with trying to help people.
Okay.
Right?
I like that better than leading with trust. I mean, leading with, I try to help people is an instinct that I have, which sometimes burns me.
But it's the same thing when you're trying to help someone.
Really?
Not all of the time. In my instance, what I do, I've got a unique skill set, right? I really take it very seriously in being a very good lawyer. So I've done everything from a capital murder trial to signing, a Cousin Boo Boo to a big record deal, right? Or to signing him to a management company with his cousin Cleon, right? That because they got a dream and that's what they want to do, right? But it's a cross spectrum. So, but every step of the way, sometimes these people have money, sometimes they don't. Sometimes I get stuck with a bill and I'm like, yo, you need to pay me. And they're like, oh, I really don't have it. Some people, but if I try and lead with the fact that I'm trying to help them, it's kind of like leading with trust anyway, because I'm not, a lot of times, depending on the situation, they may or may not have the money to pay me, what I would normally charge someone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of sincerity. I
love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. And I think that shines through. Like, I love it. Like, keeps me up at night, wakes me up early in the morning,
and you have to love it to run your own, company. You really do.
Honestly, my spin on that is that in order to be, successful in anything that you do and to be blessed, it's a blessing to really love what you do. Because you think about it, like you said, there's a lot of people that have worked their buns off, for other people or doing things that they don't necessarily like to do. Like, look at you guys. You guys are here hustling from Chicago, set up everything at Google, and you've got this great, podcast going on. And this is your dream. Like, you know what I mean? A lot of people don't get to see or fulfill their dreams. They don't get the vision, or they're afraid. They live in fear, right? So to be able to do what I'm doing, I really, again, too, because of my journey, I've been, on my ass. So I've seen the other side too, and I definitely don't want to go back there again.
Wow. How do you network, Jimmy? I mean, what you're doing so much traveling.
Yeah.
You have so many clients. You have how many people are on your staff? How many lawyers? How many partners do you have with your law firm?
It's only me and one other partner.
Okay.
And he does mostly all of the litigation.
All the litigation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've got another partner who does a lot of the transactional work.
Okay.
And that's how we get it done. But
the networking piece, though. So, in addition to taking care of your clients who you have really intimate relationships with, you are new business developing. How do you network? And is this all word of mouth for you?
A lot of it. A lot of times I meet people through referrals. I meet people on airplanes. I meet people in lobbies. I meet people at just all over the place.
And you have a pitch.
Not necessarily.
I mean, you said airplanes. That's like no time.
Yeah, but that's when, people are sitting next to you. Sometimes people are friendly. Some people are not. Sometimes they sit next to you and they want to chat, and you chat them up, and a friendship sparks.
So you're always on.
I don't know about that. I mean, I try to be pleasant when I meet people.
I feel like I'm always on.
You are.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I
know, right? Like, what does that mean?
You are. That's good because you're running something that's very high energy.
Yeah.
But something that I noticed about you is that you seem reserved, which is interesting for a lawyer in the entertainment space.
Yeah, that's
working with the type of people that you're working with.
Do
you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
No, I definitely am not an introvert.
Okay.
I definitely, I think what we all have to do is maintain our energy and monitor our energy. And so maybe the reservation is coming across that way, but it's like, at the same time, I've got to protect my energy. Right. And what I mean by that is that people will take advantage of your energy and use your energy for their purposes and not, feed your energy in turn. Right. So in my instance, I try, I recognize at an early age that I've got a lot of energy. Right. And I have to be somewhat reserved in the sense of I can't give all my energy to everybody. Right. So maybe that's what it is,
So as a Black man,
Yep.
working in a space where Black people are usually on the opposite side of the table, speaking of using other people's energy, historically speaking, how important is it for some of the people that you work with to see someone like them on the other side of the table?
I think it's important. I think it's hopefully it's inspiring. I do try to, share my story wherever I can. So to hopefully inspire the next generation or someone else who, may be going through a similar circumstance or, may, want to know how to, what my journey was and what my steps were. But I think it's really important to share your story. And a lot of times I give my phone number out to people who text message me or email me, and I try to, be as responsive as I can be, with also, but at the same time being respectful of my own time.
How do people reach you?
My email address is james.mcmillan. That's MCMILLAN at JEMPC.com. And my entertainment email is james@art@warent.com.
And what about your Instagram channel?
Oh, it's Jimmy Nichols, JIMMYNICKLES.
I mean, what a great name, Jimmy Nichols.
When you say that, I'm like,
it makes me smile.
Someone's got to drop that in a rap song at some point, right? Like, come on.
Yeah, hopefully in the right way.
It's too easy.
And when will we hear more about your Atlanta Records deal?
I mean, hopefully, the goal here is to become a conglomerate, right? So, our goal is every day is to find the next hot thing and to find hot artists and to, plug in with them and bring their talents to the world, right? That's it. And create, awesome, amazing content along the way, whether it be, right now it's music. We have aspirations to do movies and other forms of art as well. So that's it.
Wow.
Esther.
Every single time.
Man.
We're really on a roll with this.
I'm telling you.
This has been an amazing conversation.
Jimmy's
you guys
the best.
are super cool.
Thank you so much for having this conversation with us and sharing your energy with us. And
Thank
it's
you.
very real. And when I said reserved, I really meant like there's a sense of calm about you that is also very calming. That is probably something that people really appreciate in a lawyer.
I see inside, I'm like, bouncing off the walls.
And that's
No,
okay.
no.
I'm that way too.
Yeah, I'm like,
And definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your energy with us. I'm Esther Ikoro.
And I'm JinJa Birkenbeuel.
And we'll see you next time. The Honest Field Guide podcast is produced by Birk Creative, written and created by JinJa Birkenbeuel and Esther Ikoro. The podcast is recorded in the innovation and technology capital of the Midwest, Chicago, at Stomping Ground Studios in Ukrainian Village.
Original music is written by and provided courtesy of Utah Carol. Follow Honest Field Guide on Instagram and Twitter. The opinions expressed on the Honest Field Guide are opinions only and only represent the views of JinJa Birkenbeuel and Esther Ikoro.